Is this the newest piece of tech for death and taxes, or is this just a garbage card that shouldn't be in the deck? Let's find out. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today I've been asked to play some try-hard death and taxes and do my absolute best to win. And while we're doing that, we're going to test out this card to see if it's really good or if it just happened to top 8 a Legacy challenge. So let's start with the deck list. Yoshiwata, a Japanese player, recently top 8'd with this deck list, and why don't we pull all these planes over into the second column here? Yeah. Hard to get all these Yorion deck lists onto the screen properly. So, Yorion conceptually goes and gives you a bunch of extra card advantage as games run long. So, the downside of Chrome Mox causing you to lose a card for acceleration early on might not be as bad as it might be in another deck list. Here's kind of the problem though. What happens when you open up on a bunch of lands and Aether Vial and Chrome Mox? You kind of end up with this do-nothing hand that has the wrong ratio of cards. When you shift from a 60-card Death and Taxes deck list to an 80-card Death and Taxes deck list, you draw Aether Vial less frequently. And while it can be one of your most important cards, the deck doesn't necessarily need it to operate. It does really appreciate that mana boost, though. I guess it's more of a mana boost. So conceptually, I understand the idea of playing Chrome Mox. But over the last 10 or so years, I've tried Chrome Mox multiple times, and I've never really been overly impressed by it. I understand the logic here. Being able to play a Thalia on turn 1, for example, is kind of a huge deal versus a combo deck. But this is also a format where Prismatic Ending is relatively popular. And when you get your turn 1 mana source 2 for 1, it's pretty rough. So the big thing that I want to see today is like, is this card the real deal? Does this card feel real? Or, did someone have a good run? In a paper metagame, I don't think I'm too excited about Chrome Mox, but as you've probably noticed in these videos that I make, combo decks pop up so much more frequently on Magic Online than they do on paper. And we might really appreciate that speed boost when we're playing against Reanimator and Doomsday and things of that nature. So we're gonna see how this feels today. Is this tech? Is this trash? Let's find out. I had a discussion about this on a recent episode of Eternal Glory if you kind of want to get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff. Most of the cards that are in this deck list are stock. Containment Priest in the main deck is not super stock. It has some issues. It's just fundamentally opposed to some of the things that the deck is doing. Like, it shuts off your Aether Vials. It makes your Yorion Blink shenanigans significantly worse. So just kind of keep a lot of that stuff in mind here. The other thing that you may or may not know is Extraction Specialist, which lets you get a creature with mana value 2 or less back from your graveyard, but it can't attack or block for as long as you control Extraction Specialist. The sideboard has, I guess, 2 pieces of spice. First up is Curse of Silence. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a card name. Spells with the chosen name cast 2 more to cast. And whenever that player casts a spell with a name, you can sacrifice the curse. If you do, draw a card. And then we also have Emrakul, which we're not casting or vialing in. This is here to stop Painter's Servant Grindstone combo, which is pretty popular online. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the matches here. Please consider leaving me a like or comment on the video and subscribing if you aren't already subscribed. Those are the easiest ways to support my content for free. Let's battle. Hello, Phil from the future here. I recommend rounds 3 and rounds 5. My opponent's decks are really cool in those rounds. Enjoy the show. Round 1. Opening hand. Aether Vial and Chrome Mox. If this was a lot of other cards, this could maybe be a keepable hand. But this is a bad 6-card hand, almost closer to a 5-card hand. We're going to be mulliganing this one, and we are playing a Yorion Mirror. Second hand, Containment Priest Aether Vial. Looking strong. Looking strong. Awkwardly, I think I'm keeping it. And I think I'm throwing back a Thalia. I don't know for sure whether or not this is going to be a Death and Taxes matchup. If it is, I don't want the second Thalia. If this is just going to be a blue mid-range Yorion pile of some kind, then I do want the second Thalia over the Containment Priest. But if I'm playing a Death and Taxes Mirror, I want to be able to play Containment Priest and then use it to Flicker Wisp. Alright, Vial goes up. I basically have to cast Thalia this turn because I can't Vial in Containment Priest reasonably right now. I also probably can't reasonably Vial it in next turn. I probably just have to cast this card with my mana next turn. Unless I rip a land, in which case I can do Recruiter of the Guard. Fuck. Alright. Recruiter of the Guard nonsense. Alright. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I'm into where this is going now. Go ahead and crash in for my 2. My opponent takes the damage. At end of combat here, I believe I go ahead and just wasteland them. Bounce is fine. That land is gone. The Thalia resolved last time around. I think I just Vial it in my opponent's upkeep, though. And don't give them a chance to cast like a cantrip or something here. So let's do this. Yeah, see, and we wanted to deny this mana on my opponent's turn. Put in that Thalia. Now my opponent could have a Prismatic Ending or something here, very reasonably. Malevolent Hermit, so we're actually playing against a combo deck, not a control deck. I probably need this Vial on 3 active. I'm not going to cast Containment Priest right now. Another land is fantastic. We might be playing against like a blue-white show and tell deck list, in which case holding up Containment Priest is very reasonable. Getting a Spirit is pretty good here. Just stop all the assorted cantrips that my opponent's deck might have. I think I'm going to go ahead and go for that. We'll recruit. Take one more look, make sure that I don't like anything more. I will go ahead and pick up that Spirit. Can't be Force of Will due to the Thalia attacks. I'll crash in with my first striker. Opponent's at 14. We're out of immediate show and tell range, if that is something that my opponent is doing. There's other combo decks that they can be. Sure. Junking my Vial is reasonable. Swords is fine to get a creature out of the way here, but it costs 2 mana, which is just super awkward right now. I think I'm probably just going to end up casting a Containment Priest in this turn cycle. I don't think I'm going to attack in with either of these other creatures. I don't think I need to endanger them in combat here. Opponent drops to 12, I'll call that good. My current plan involves playing a Containment Priest and then flickering one of my opponent's creatures out of play. Lavinia is not a problem. Let's end of turn Priest. Don't love these draws here. Whether or not I do this pre-combat is a little awkward. I think I'm just gonna swing in with Thalia and leave up Swords to Plowshares to disrupt some sort of multi-block scenario. And then in the second main phase, I'll go ahead and Flicker Wisp. Maybe taking out the Hermit. That is a creature that can just come back and do a second thing. As of next turn, I probably start thinking of swinging all of the creatures sideways. Swords to Plowshares, the Containment Priest in response. Absolutely. This will allow my opponent's creature to come back normally. And that's that. We've just sort of drawn awkwardly here in terms of resources, like being on 3 land while having 3 non-creature spells is pretty rough. That's not as bad as it could have been, honestly. Like, it's a 2-for-1 that's not in my favor. And seeing the Plague Engineer, it now feels like my opponent is on Esper Vial. And I'm going to go ahead and just take this damage here. Just unless it's 3, yeah, it is. We're going to go ahead and start with a Swords to Plowshares on our good friend Plague Engineer to set up for the future. My opponent will sack the Malevolent Hermit. We'll let that get countered. Then we will Swords to Plowshares the Plague Engineer out of the way, so that Spirit of the Labyrinth can safely attack in this turn cycle, allowing us to get in for 12 damage. putting our opponent in theoretical lethal range next turn. But with 2 blockers there, Spirit of the Labyrinth is not getting in, so this is more realistically a 2-turn clock. We're very light on actual resources here. Horrifying that my opponent needs to fetch there. Oh, that's very strong. So they'll bounce Spirit out of the way so that they can actually draw their card. Liquor Wisp can put my opponent to 1 or kill Teferi. JK. I'll eat 4 damage here. I'm definitely starting to fall behind. Like, I am within striking distance in terms of life total, but most of my draws this game have been very suboptimal. Lauren doesn't destroy anything here. It's artifacts and enchantments. I think I'm just playing this as a body and calling it a turn. Getting stuck on 3 mana while having a Vial bounced and some expensive cards bounced is not the best spot for me. More land drops for my opponent. Yeah, this is the sort of stuff that I very much don't want to see. Lauren timing super awkward against Strix here. And their Yorion is going to hand. They've hit land drops and I haven't, meaning that like they are going to get absolutely disgusting amounts of value off of their card. And I have to decide what I'm doing with my own resources. I might need to just trade here so that my opponent can't bounce another one of my things, but that gives up the whole Lauren Spirit of the Labyrinth situation. I don't think I can beat my opponent just getting infinite value out of their Yorion here. Like, the extra card off Baleful Strix is going to be bad enough when Yorion is also going to be the largest body around. Yeah, not what I was hoping for, and I should have played my Vial first. I think this game is effectively over in favor of my opponent at this point. Even me ripping something like a Stoneforge Mystic and a Caldra is going to be very awkward in terms of actually just finishing the game. So this might be the similar spot as to before, where in order to dampen the power of my opponent's Yorion, I'm supposed to make trades here. This feels awful because it's leaving me with so little. I'm going to take this, despite the fact that I have a Spirit of the Labyrinth to make that worse, but a deck that wants to blink a Yorion is not, that's his end of combat. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's the Yorion. And we'll go ahead and Vial in the Spirit. Sure. I think I am going to start sending this up at some point. I would like to get my own Yorion into play. I have no good attacks here. Punished for not playing my Aether Vial last turn because I can't Vial in Mother of Runes here. I think instead I'm just playing both of these out. It was a small misstep, but it's a costly one. My opponent might just like a fairy bounce my Vial out of the way to just vastly delay my own Yorion from coming down. I'm a little surprised my opponent doesn't just 6 me in the air and 2-turn me here. Like, I don't think. Oh, cool. Yeah. That's a little rough. And then they are going to bounce the Spirit of the Labyrinth, just take more of my permanents out of play. I am comfortable conceding here. So conceptually, we're looking to be this long-term value deck, but my opponent is just better at being a value deck than I am, which puts us in kind of a rough spot. What's worse is that my sideboard isn't really very good. One of the things I really dislike about the Yorion sideboards is they're like 99% dedicated to the combo matchups because your fair matchup is supposed to be made better. But anytime you play against a better fair deck, you don't improve in the post sideboard games, right? So like the Graveyard Hate is not where I want to be. Council's Judgment is very slow. Curse of Silence, not really what I want. Peacekeeper, not what I want. You know, like I have 3 cards that I can consider, and as we saw in this matchup, like the Containment Priest is incredibly awkward at taxing our own resources in addition to my opponent's resources. So like there's that. Part of me just wants to abandon the Aether Vials because they're so bad against my opponent's bounce stuff. and just lean on the Chrome box, which is admittedly also not great versus the bounce stuff, but at least can help me accelerate out stuff faster. I just conceptually do not like my position within this matchup. And a lot of things like Thalia that conceptually might be good against my opponent's cantrips are also just legendary permanents that get bounced by Karakas when my opponent draws one. I don't like this hand, but I also don't think it's worth mulliganing. The issue is that my opponent's hands are just so value-oriented that these one-for-one removal spells aren't great. I'm keeping this under the hopes that Spirit of the Labyrinth puts some pressure on my opponent's resources. Like, if the spirit lives, and that is a big hypothetical, if the spirit lives and denies my opponent some cards, my one-for-one trades look much better. Alright, my opponent starts on a Vial, which is absolutely great value for them, and I can't interact with that very quickly. And it's unclear whether or not Skyclaving that will be the correct play when we get around to that stage of the game. But the hand's gonna play itself for the first couple of turns. You know, almost with 100% certainty, I play Spirit into Skyclave. Unless my opponent just offers me a really juicy target on turn 2 here. Which they did not. If I'm going to be tapping out here, I'm going to go ahead and do it pre-combat, so my opponent vialing in a mob or something like that doesn't end up taking my Spirit of the Labyrinth. Boo. So we'll take out that. And I have very little in terms of gas left. Like, as of next turn, I already need to be putting the Yorion into my hand because I'm just out of everything here. Now I can Yorion while also Swords to Plowsharing some creature that my opponent plays. But yeah, using Swords to Plowshares on creatures that look like this is super feel bad. At the same time, I have to remove those bodies or this happens later. My plan for winning right now involves cobbling together a win for this game and timing out my opponent in game 3. Yeah, so absolutely cannot let this thing get online. I do have 2 removal spells to stop that nonsense. Wasteland, not great here. Send in with the Skyclave. My opponent's not going to block. And I'll throw Yorion to hand. I'm going to try to make my opponent commit mana to Soul Herder before I just go and remove it. X is fine. Now my opponent has more than one Soul Herder target, which is inconvenient. Probably means that I just take this damage towards the Baleful Strix. Ugh. I'll swords whatever my opponent targets here. Yeah, but kind of like as you can see, my opponent is just burying me in card advantage here. And it feels pretty bad. Like, I can Yorion blink Skyclave, get a Strix out of the way. I think it's just better to wasteland my opponent and path their Soul Herder when they play it. Another just horrible thing, and I'm going to say this so that it happens on my next draw step, is that I just have 4 copies of Chrome Mox in my deck right now. So at any stage in the mid to late game when I draw that, it is just absolutely a dead draw. Yeah, this is just awful. So my opponent has played so many ETB value creatures, and like I've gotten timed walked by not being able to use my Path to Exile reasonably here. And if I tap out for this Yorion, my opponent gets a Soul Herder trigger. I very much want to avoid, but I think I cannot take another turn off worth of mana here. So we'll blink Skyclave. My opponent does get a token. This comes back, and I get to start chipping away at my opponent's board. All of these are a pain in the butt. I'm going to take out the Aether Channeler. It is the most flexible of these options. The downside of taking this one is that my opponent will get a 3/3. Okay, they're just going to swords my thing. Oh, they swords my Yorion. Okay, cool. I don't have any long-term value remaining. I'm going to get eaten alive by Soul Herder. I think I just got to take this. I don't think I can trade. It actually upgrades my opponent's body over there. Alright. I'm convinced I'm dead. I'm going to cut the round off here, and if I'm wrong or something interesting happens, I'll keep recording. So this is what the board looks like about 2 turns later, and it's very clear that I have no way back into this game. I'm going to go ahead and concede this one. This is an awful matchup. GG's. Alright, right away, round 2, opening hand. I hate Chrome Box here, right? Because, like, I have Solitude as a pitch card, and I have Chrome Box as a pitch card. And both of those together at the same time is super awkward. It basically forces me to choose between the two of them. But, like, let's see if just playing a turn 1 Thalia here just does absolutely disgusting things to this turn cycle and causes me to just shut up and go like, okay, that was good. If my opponent doesn't play a basic land or a fetch land and I just get to like wasteland them out of this game, it's super cool. Come on. Come on. Non-basic. Yes. Bird. That's no fair that you get mana acceleration here. Let's take that away. So do that. And again, like, look at this whole Chromox Aether Vial thing. I just want this to be a resource now that I have a Chromox in play. I am not loving the feel of this. They're going for a non-basic again, so I will wasteland that. No! Cool, cool, cool. Cool, cool, cool. The whole wasteland plan has absolutely fallen apart against this card. God damn it. Yeah. I will recruit. Take over this game with equipment seems reasonable, although there's a lot of paths to potential victory here. Like, I can just get a Skyclave and answer that thing and try to keep pinching my opponent on the mana route. But I just don't think that's the direction that I want to try to take this game. And again, like, I can't grab something like a Solitude here because of this whole situation that I've dedicated 3 cards to already. Okay. So my entire mana now plan has fallen apart. What's kind of... And I am just going to let that deal combat damage to me so that I can have this recruiter around for Yorion Blink later. What's horrifying to me is that my opponent is using the Swords to Plowshares here. And when they know that I just have Stoneforge Mystic, which is a decision. Opponent's a good Magic player, so probably got something else up their sleeve. Either another removal spell or something. Green Sun for Dryad Arbor. File goes up. I'm thinking about getting Jitte. I'm going to just 100% confirm that Jitte is still in this deck. Yep, okay. Yeah, I think it is Jitte O'Clock. Put in the Stoneforge. Grab the Jitte. This play is only possible, by the way, due to my Thalia tax being removed. Put that on Recruiter. Send in for damage. My opponent can block with Dryad Arbor to take this body off the battlefield. They do not do so. And go ahead and just take out 2 mana sources. My opponent can get one of them back with the Deeproot Wayfinder. And, like, I don't mind. I just want this tempo play in my favor here. Honestly, I could chump block here to not allow my opponent to get land back. I'm getting great value off of this Jitte, and I have a recruiter that I'm about to do. Oh, shit. Oh, no. And we're dead. That's Witherbloom Apprentice, Chain of Smog combo. I'm going to see what card is in my opponent's hand, and then I will concede. 100% wasn't expecting that. I thought we were fully on, like, Abzan mid-range nonsense. Ugh. So I'm going to end up in a similar situation to last round, where I'm not really going to have reasonable sideboarding options for this. I'll probably play Rest in Peace and Council's Judgment. At the Exile is potentially playable. The Thalias aren't going to be good a lot of the time. They'll be very important when they matter. I kind of want to go down on legendary creatures. My opponent's very likely to have Caracas in their deck, and Lauren is just not the strongest here unless we see something like Sylvan Library. And then I'll probably go down an Aether Vial or a Chrome Mox for the last card. I could also bar down Containment Priest. My vials are kind of important when they do matter. Or like Dryad Arbor things that Containment Priest is good against, but I think I'm going to do this. This is a perfectly mediocre hand. Jite was starting to look good last time. I think I'm comfortable keeping this. The Solitude is a nice safety net versus the Witherbloom Apprentice combo, should that happen. Everything here is just sort of awkward. I don't feel like... Oh. That was unexpected as well. Is this a Vial game? I have to make the decision right now whether or not this is a Vial game. Because otherwise I play Thalia into Jite Equip Attack. I think this game goes long enough that taking the turn off to do this is good. I don't think I'm going to turbo towards Jite counters, which was kind of the original plan. It seems like my opponent's not willing to just play a creature out into my known Swords to Plowshares here. Or, like, a suspected Swords to Plowshares, rather. I think I'm just going to take a turn off to Rishadenport my opponent. It's a little awkward if they have something like Containment Priest specifically. And in their upkeep, I'm going to try to port them. They didn't play a 2-drop last turn. Do have another land drop, though. End of turn, we're going to do a Containment Priest check. No Containment Priest. I have a lot of mid-range options available to me now. I think I'm interested in playing a Thalia and holding up Lion Sash in all likelihood. Like, this puts a Thalia into play, potentially draws out a Swords to Plowshares. Like, play does stuff. Alright, opponent has basic lands. A lot of them. Knight of the Reliquary gets checked by my Lion Sash that I have. Although the Lion Sash isn't particularly good at attacking right now, because Meekstone is a thing. But we'll go ahead and check that graveyard and keep this going up. I'm going to go ahead and attack with both creatures here. Opponent doesn't block. That's fine. They'll drop to 14. Then I think I'm going to go ahead and Recruiter. Yes. Find Skyclave. I think I'm Skyclaving the Meekstone, but I don't have to make that decision now. I'm not overly threatened by Knight of the Reliquary activations. I'm just going to leave myself with a lot of options here. Swords is fine. It's good. There's some tension here between these two cards right now. The Meekstone all of a sudden is not exactly a problem now that my Lion Sash has been removed. I think I'm going to go ahead and take out the onboard body then. We'll give my opponent a chance to activate and find, you know, a Maze of Ith or whatever it is they have. A Horizon Canopy. Sure. And we'll go ahead and just keep this ticking up towards 5 for Solitude and Yorion. Awkward that I can't do that at instant speed now. Also awkward how good like a Swords to Plowshares is against this right now, but my opponent just used one, so they're somewhat unlikely to have a second. It will go to 9 here. I don't think I need to put the Yorion into my hand right now. I think I'm just trying to aggro over the finish line here. I think I'm just going to put more points of power into play. It's like, do I want to hedge against future creatures? Do I want to remove the Meekstone so that my stuff untaps? Do I want to put the Yorion into hand so I'm not telegraphing Solitude as hard? That's fine. It's good. It's good utility versus like Vial and Spirit and whatnot. I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage. That's the 9th damage that I'm looking at here. But I don't think I'm going to go full aggro here. I think I want to send this and send this in. See what my opponent wants to do about attacks like that. I don't want to endanger this in combat and give my opponent a 3/3. I think I'm fine with giving them a block on Thalia and then destroying Spirit of the Labyrinth if they want to do that. Seems like they do not want to do that. I think I'm going to go ahead and play out a Skyclave. And I'm just going to take the Meek Stone. I'm going to have 2 different 3-power things that I would like to untap. And I'll presumably kill my opponent by solituding some creature and swinging in for lethal. Autsies, just trying to get information here. I will put in the Solitude and get that creature out of the way. Yep. And I don't think I'm going to be making any sideboard choices here. Like, I have an anti-artifact card in the form of Kataki, but I don't think I want to be doing that versus what is likely to be a very small number of artifacts in my opponent's deck. It's possible that my opponent has an Urza Saga or 2 in that deck list. To search that up, but the mana-based constraints seem kind of tight over there. Could have brought Lauren back in. That really feels like a medium minus creature most of the time. This is an unexciting hand that I will probably keep. I just haven't been happy with very many of the hands that this deck list has produced. Thoughtseize. Very contextual what my opponent takes. The Vial is the most time overvalue card, but is not particularly strong within the context of this hand. It does, however, make choices pretty awkward for my opponent. I will fire off a Swords to Plowshares on just about any creature that my opponent plays in this turn cycle, and I imagine if they have a creature, they don't even play it until after I have played this Thalia, which I think I will still go ahead and do. At the end of the day, my opponent still is a Witherbloom Apprentice Chain of Smog deck list. Like, it matters. I think this is just going to eat an end of turn Swords to Plowshares off of Savannah. End of turn Swords to Plowshares. Called it. Are we facing down like a knight? We are facing down a knight. Am I fine with Flicker Wisping that? Am I fine with Skyclaving that? I believe the answer is yes. If my opponent removes it, they get a 3/3, which is a little annoying, but I've got a Flicker Wisp to clean up that token if need be. And I do want to just start getting bodies onto the battlefield so that I can theoretically do Yorion nonsense later. What the hell is this? Flanking. Creatures your opponents control without flying or reach can't block creatures with power 2 or less. Legendary creature. Really awkward that I'm going to get wastelanded soon. I think I'm going to go ahead and take the tempo play anyway. Bash my opponent for the 2. And I think I'll go ahead and port them rather than put Yorion into my hand. Let's take them off that black. Oh, God. It hurts my soul. Oh, that's so good. A Collector Oof. My mana is going to be so tight for the rest of this game. I'm going to go ahead and just take that out of the way. Makes the Flicker Wisp more awkward if I draw a land. Oh, I'm so glad that I removed that Collector Oof. What a convenient draw. Alright, my opponent's at 15. They could play that big dumb creature that I've already forgotten the name of, and I can Solitude it out of the way, and then go Jitte Equip. Yeah. The Dar Kondo of Jamara. Yeah, I think this is worth it. Let's send that out of the way. Get some Jitte counters to insulate me versus smaller creatures that my opponent might play, and I've still got an evasive flyer that's castable afterwards. That's also attached to a removal spell. And that's good enough for the match win. Whew. It has been a slog of a league so far. GG's. This opening hand has no white mana sources. It is an auto mulligan. Unfortunately, that's the same with this one. We're on 5. Rough. Keep 100% throwing back 1 Vial. 4th land is pretty bad. Vial is pretty bad with 1 creature as well. I think I am going to keep the 4th land and hope that either double Wasteland or just going and making my land drops allows me to play a reasonable enough game of Magic that I can dig myself out of this double mulligan. Flooded Strand is probably just going to be a basic island. Fuck. Okay. Spirit Labyrinth has some heavy lifting to do now. Was a shuffle on their end. Alright. Drumbox sucks. Feel pretty damn confident that that card should not be in this deck after 2 rounds and 2 turns. Alright, I imagine my opponent's gonna... Oh. Why, deck? Why? Does Ice Fang coatl me? Just absolutely... Fuck you, Phil. Yeah. Spirit Labyrinth is worded that the opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn, so they are allowed to draw that card. I'm behind enough there that I certainly have to attack into potential Ice Fang coatl before I know what archetype my opponent is on, but the double mulligan was bad. Drawing Chrome Mox made it worse. Drawing Kaldra made it worse. The Ice Fang, it kind of was the nail in the coffin. I'm going to play this game out to figure out exactly what archetype my opponent is. Like a Bant control deck list is somewhat likely, but we could also be looking at some mid-range combo deck, you know, something along the lines of a Lurin or Food Chain. And my opponent drops a Noble Hierarch, so potentially accelerating into things like Uro. 2 of them. So wastelanding my opponent after they play double Noble Hierarch is not a winning proposition, even with Rishadenport backing that up. Yeah, so I'm just going to hold this wasteland in play as a mana source and hope that I can eventually get to, like, Aldra and Yorion mana in a reasonable way. Oh? Oh, really? The funny thing is I almost hoarded Forest so that my opponent would be less likely to use the mana with something like a Brainstorm, but if I did that, they just would have Worldly Tutored. They just tutored for another Noble Hierarch. What is this world that we are living in? Wild. Okay. Tapping out for a Yorion kind of doesn't seem great here. My opponent has so much mana, my deck does nothing. Alright. Well, my opponent did play out a Teferi and activate it. I've got nothing to blink. I do have a 4/5 flyer. I don't know how much that matters. Immediate Teferi plus. Fetching to clear the Brainstorm. More land. Okay, yeah. This was something that I suspected earlier. And then they can immediately escape it. Why is my opponent playing Worldly Tutor? Like, is this still a Lurin or another similar combo deck? Flicker Wisp Uro out of play to buy some time. And also Chrome Mox Flicker Wisp to play Kaldra and hold the ground from Uro that way. It's just so bad versus Prismatic Ending and Friends if I do that. Let's kill the Teferi first. I think I always want to do that. I'm always playing Wasteland. I think I am very, very sadly going to make this play. Not a fan. This is the attempt at a defensive Kaldra. Alright, so I've given up a Flicker Wisp to attempt to cast that spell. And then my opponent's Force of Will looks very good. I take 9 damage here from this Uro. And I'm down an extra card in a time where my opponent is already pulling ahead on card advantage. It's brutal. Sure. I'm not dead, but this situation sucks. Okay. This Chromox build just feels so awful against any sort of mid-range deck, which is what I keep getting paired against here. And I don't really think that I can just, like, try to wasteland my opponent and expect that to do anything meaningful here. Alright, there's another land drop. I think... I just can't eat 9 to the face and go to 2 against multiple onboard creatures and 3 noble hierarchs. Like, what am I supposed to do to get back into this? Wasteland myself and remove 4 of my lands from play. Yikes. So I still don't know why Worldly Tutor is here. I will play a Rest in Peace. I'll play a Path. I could play a Surgical. Play a Council's Judgment. My opponent is something like a Lauren. I do specifically need Lauren, but I haven't seen enough cards to really know. I'm going to go Containment Priest out. Vial and Chrome Mox are a little dubious here. Thalia is probably not the best either. I'm going to go down 2 copies of Chrome Mox. Cut 1 Lauren and also play this. I don't need the Surgical versus Uro. I can keep this to hedge against my opponent being a Lauren. I'm so unexcited by my opening hands with this version of the deck, but they're not really bad enough to throw back at the same time. So here we are. Hierarch is so good at playing around the Thalia type effects. I think I am supposed to Thalia anyway in this turn cycle. My opponent has Force of Will. Like, I'm potentially supposed to lead on a Spirit of Labyrinth to bait that out so that, like, I can have both a Thalia and a Spirit. I also don't think that my opponent has Source to Plowshares right now. If they had it, they would have led on it to remove Mom before it was active, so I'm going to sneak in a point of damage here. I can be punished by my opponent drawing Swords to Plowshares for their draw for this turn, but the damage is free a good portion of the time. So let's Wasteland. Drop a Spirit. And I am willing to do another cheeky Mom attack. I don't think I'm going to be favored in this matchup as it goes long. So I think we're going aggro. Ooh, do not have the appropriate colors of mana here. So let's drop Spirit. I don't think I attack with Mom this time. Weird flash creatures like Scrib Ranger exist, and I don't want to throw away a Spirit. Okay, cool. Very nice. Yeah, we're just going to turn 12 power sideways. It's possible turning the Mom sideways here is correct because it's a 2-turn clock versus a 3-turn clock. But I can just play out a secondary Mother of Runes here and attack for 8 next turn anyway if my opponent does not have white mana up. Okay, so there is another color of mana here. Oh, that's what's going on. That's why it's Worldly Tutor. That makes sense. That's absolutely horrifying. My opponent does not use the trigger. It goes to my turn. So how do I play this? I can double protect from blue and put my opponent to 1 so that they can't fetch. I can do that while porting them off of blue mana. I think I'm okay with that. Both these get pro blue. Oh, that's awkward. Okay, they didn't use the ability, but I should have let that trigger resolve. That triggers on both turn cycles, and that is quite important. I think I do a draw step port rather than an upkeep port here. I don't want to run into my opponent, like casting Worldly Tutor, and then having extra mana. Fuck. Exactly 6 permanents in play. Oh my god. Oh my god. Hey. Hey. Yeah, so I'll cast a Stoneforge Mystic. We'll just pick up the Hasty Cauldron and hopefully kill my opponent next turn. Oh my god. Fuck this. Forgot about that. I'm so not used to this triggering on both turn cycles. Like, cards don't normally work like that. Now that, like, Alesh... This is some bullshit. I hate this. I hate this so much. Like, I'm just going to have to deal with that thing becoming, like, Uro and Alesh Norn as my opponent wants it, and I just, like, am forced to continue to play out bodies, I can't work towards removing it because I don't have another mana. Yeah. Oh, knew it was coming. Like, just don't have a choice, though. I don't know if what my opponent is, like, if what they're doing is good, but it is good against me. Like, very clearly. Opponent got a 4-for-1 with a single Vesuvian Drifter trigger, as used three other Vesuvian Drifter triggers to good effect. And like the Uro ramps towards actually making something like an Alesh Norn castable. Alright, what is it this time? Nothing, but it's still a 2-4 flyer. Like, I'm still getting clocked for 4 here. Absolutely disgusting. Like, if I take the time to play out Rest in Peace, I just die to this stuff, right? Yeah, I'll concede here. I'm not beating this. Ugh. Hey folks, I hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching regularly and you're in the financial position to support me, this is a great time. 2 days from now will be my last day working as a full-time teacher, and then content creation becomes my primary job. So if you're in the position to support me via YouTube or Patreon or doing a donation deck list, that would be cool. If not, likes and comments mean a lot too. Back to the show. Yeah, like, I am just so unhappy with how all of my opening hands look with this deck. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. Like, am I keeping 5 of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hoping to draw my second land. If not, I'm instantly dead. Or am I going to 4? How many lands am I playing? I don't know the Yorion math off the top of my head here. 29 lands plus Chrome Mox, 33. 33 of 73, less than 50%. Nope, I'll go to 4. Chrome Mox. Yikes. I couldn't tell you what deck this beats, but Death and Taxes is not operating on a 3-card hand in all likelihood. Thanks, deck. Very cool. The good news is, like, this is a very respectable matchup. The bad news is, like, I effectively have a 0-card hand for the first few turns of this game. And so I can't do anything to bait Dazes and Force of Wills and stuff. I just am going to have to ram cards into it, which is really not where I want to be. My life total will also fall apart very, very quickly here. And Dragon Rage Channeler will maybe attack as a 3/3 next turn. Land, Instant, and Sorcery are easier. The 4th type's harder. I can potentially set it up with the Ponder, though. Okay, that is a very good draw. I believe that I'm supposed to take out the Dragon Rage Channeler over the Delver. The Delver represents more immediate damage, but the Dragon Rage Channeler represents selection and the possibility of an early Murktide Regent, and I just absolutely cannot beat a Murktide Regent. My Recruiter of the Guard either isn't playable until turn 4, or I have to just feed it to a Daze in hopes of resolving something else. The Wasteland's not immediately good, but it will probably make casting my Yorion a bit more awkward later on. So one of the things that we're going to have to figure out is, like, why is my opponent in rug colors? The answer could be something like Tarmogoyf. The answer could be something like Minskin Boo, sideboard cards, Uro. Like, there's options. So for example, for tapping out to put Yorion into my hand here, I might just eat 4 damage from a hamster. Okay, good. I was worried when my opponent just fetched there. I am at 11. These cards are not what I am looking for. Force pitching that Daze. That doesn't mean they don't have another one, but it does mean that I'm taking at least another Lightning Bolt worth of damage from that Delver. My opponent has 2 cards left. 3 after that Bauble is cracked. I am at 8. I have 1 card that's relatively dead in the matchup in hand. I think I'm supposed to play the Yorion here into Daze. Like, with this Wasteland on board, it's just so hard to play the Yorion around days. So I don't expect this to resolve, but I think I'm in the position where I just have to try, and then I can Mom and Lauren next turn. Yep. Basic lands are good. That Caracas is another basic, then I 100% just wait another turn to try to draw a land to play Yorion around it and set up Mom. But it's not. Yeah. I'm at 5. Okay. This is at least interesting. The problem is I'm just under so much pressure and I'm already just dead on board to Lightning Bolt. I have to get something that can gain life next turn. So that means getting Jete here. My opponent has 3 cards. It's very likely that one of them is a Lightning Bolt. I haven't really given my opponent great targets for that. And if it is, we're down a game. Take 3. Am I dead now? Yes. Okay, that's, again, not unexpected. We mulliganed into Oblivion. Again, we're supposed to be pre-boarded for matchups like this, but here we are. I'm probably going to pull the copies of Lauren and Containment Priest. Lauren just is not going to have targets a good portion of the time. There can be sideboard things like a Sylvan Library or a Null Rod or something. And Containment Priest just kind of gets in the way of my own stuff here. I could play Leyline of the Void, but I think I'm unexcited about that as a dead draw when I'm already running into this Chrome Mox awkwardness with my own deck, and I don't like Peacekeeper in matchups like this. Like, yes, it can stop a Murktide Regent from attacking you, but it also just, like, dies to Lightning Bolt, Unholy Heat, and the Festivities, the Swift Breeze, you know. Okay, this is a pretty respectable looking opening hand. I get a chance to resolve Aether Vial on the play, but I don't like what happens if this Vial doesn't resolve. If this Vial gets Force of Willed or Force of Negation, I feel like I'm just going to kind of get choked on mana for a good portion of this game. Like, Wasteland is actively good against me as of right now, for example. Bobble is fine. That is a choice for sequencing. Pretty sure you're supposed to play Dragon Rage Channeler and then the Bobble so that you get a chance to Surveil. Vial goes up. God, I wish that was just the fucking land. This feels so bad. Like, anytime I draw it alongside Vial or anytime I get this card out of my deck, please. What am I supposed to do now? I'm again going to end up in this situation where I'm forced to choose between these 2 cards. So I guess I need the mana sources. So I'll Chrome Mox Imprint the Solitude. And I think I'm actually just going to try to not play around days here, but just try to trade some resources early. Like, make my opponent use resources on this so that oh wow. So that a Stoneforge Mystic is more likely to do its thing in another turn cycle. Okay, there is the reason why we are in Rug. It is Minsk and Boo. Bobble goes down. There's 3 card types in Graveyard already, so something like a Ponder will turn it into a 3/3. Opponent grabs their card off Bobble. In the hypothetical world where my opponent has a Null Rod too, like, I just take so much more of a beating from that by having both of these. Alright, so that's land in Graveyard, so that I will take 3 this turn. Sure. They've got something they like. I eat a Lightning Bolt. Then we'll throw in a Mom. My opponent did not have a clean answer there, which is nice. This doesn't do anything right now. I think I'm not going to greed it up here and get very far ahead in terms of tempo if I Stoneforge Mystic and then, like, play something like Alliance Ash out. Don't think I want to mess around with that right now. 2 mana for an attempt to destroy my Vial. I'll respond to that. Put in a Stoneforge Mystic. My original plan was to get Lion Sash, but now that I'm losing this, I probably just get Caldra and try to kill my opponent. Kind of wasted 2 mana in this turn cycle. And I'm not the biggest fan of that, but my position's okay. This is also just a 3/2 lifelinker that I can play in the not too distant future. Really just want more land here, though. Like, I very much just am in danger of getting clocked out by something like a Murktide Regent that my opponent drops. Crash in for 5. Opponent's at 14, so we're tied in terms of life total. My opponent has the first attack. My creature is more problematic to deal with and is backed by protection. Notably, this does have to attack each combat if able. So it's not like they can hold it back to block. Put something on top and then didn't shuffle. So they found some tool that they like. It's just an increased clock. That's fine. I mean, I say it's fine, but it's definitely scary for me. I'm at 11. I can attack for up to 7 this turn. Attacking for the full 7 would mean that Dead Gone specifically could bounce the Cauldra Germ token, and I could lose the game to that. I think I'm going to attack with everything and then play Extraction Specialist post-combat. I'm just so afraid of a Delver flip here, just putting a 2-turn clock on me. I think I need to 2-turn clock my opponent first. And, alright, my opponent does not trade. And now I've got a choice. I can play Mom around days 100% of the time, or I can play Extraction Specialist and put a lifelinker into play. And the difference between 11 and 14 life is actually super important, but this is dazeable. Can't keep my opponent from casting a Murktide Regent in any capacity. I think I am going to go with the lifelinker, even though I don't get maximum value off of this card. Alright, it's in play. Delver flips to Spell Pierce. I'm a little surprised that's in for a post-sideboard game. Lightning Bolt on the Specialist. That's fine. I still, in theory, have 7 power on board. Another blocker is a problem, though. Okay, opponent is getting forced into chump block mode with Insectile Aberration. That's great for me. So I think I am interested in wastelanding the open Volk. Now I know red removal is not happening. I think I need to present lethal this turn. I can't present lethal in a way. Like, I can hit my opponent for 6 if they block Mom here. If I... There's no way to do this where they have to block in a way that Delver dies. That's very awkward for me. Means I'm dead to Bolt. I can make it so they can't fetch. I think I'm just going for the 5 damage and keeping Mom up. Yeah, very awkward. I'm dead to Bolt or cantrip into Bolt. Not dead to Minsk and Boom. My opponent doesn't have enough mana. That's fine. Okay. We limped over the finish line there. When I am on the draw, do I want Leyline? No, I think I just run into this whole Chrome Mox problem. Like, with Chrome Mox and Aether Vial in the deck, there's already a very good number of non-creature spells. I don't think I can do Leylines as well. This is a very reasonable looking hand. It's not necessarily my ideal hand. Like, I have 2 wastelandable lands. I don't have a Vial. I don't have an early removal spell, but I have the right sort of cards that I am looking for in this matchup. Like, these are quite good cards. We're hoping that my opponent doesn't just have a handful of creature spells, though. And also gets improved by a large number of draws on turn 1. Like, Vial, Mom, Bromox, Swords, Path. A huge number of things help to make this hand better. Solitude as well. This is what I didn't want. Now it's much riskier to take a turn off to play Thalia because if these Delvers blind flip, it's just horrendous for me. Play Port. Play Chrome Mox. I'll imprint one of the Recruiter of the Guards that isn't particularly strong right now. Do this. So bad to play Stoneforge into Bolt. Unhappy with how this is lining up, but I'm hoping that this makes Bolt and Daze and Force more awkward for my opponent. Gonna kind of need this Flicker Wisp to resolve if these Delvers blind flip, which they did. The situation's not great if my opponent has Force of Will. Lightning Bolt's bearable. Ugh. Yeah, again, Chromox versus land. I just have wanted Chromox to be land a huge portion of the time. Can't really meaningfully double spell this turn. I think this is just a Flicker Wisp while holding up Caracas. Do get to unflip a Delver. I'm not interested in giving up one of these cards for a Chromox. As a good portion of the time here, I'm going to need to give up a card for something like a Solitude. Sure, that's fine. I'll be trading Flicker Wisp with a Delver in a Heartbeat. Bobble's fine. If my opponent did the whole like Bobble Delver thing properly. Well, if you're gonna attack, you attack with both. I will absolutely trade here. The pace of the game is slowing down. Be a bit more favorable to me. I'm gonna try to leave up this Caracas when I can for Minsk and Boo. Yeah, if this Chromox was a land, I get to rest in peace this turn and also Stoneforge Mystic, and I can't state enough how good that would be. I think I still have to do this in this turn cycle. This is worth a lot in the future, even though it's not worth anything right now. And then I just kind of hope that I either draw a removal spell for the Delver or draw a white card that I don't care about. Oh, we're not trying to flip the Delver? Okay. This feels wrong. I mean, I guess you flip it off Bobble a decent portion of the time, but it was just like probably guaranteed off the Brainstorm if you wait a turn cycle to do that. Hate that. Hate that. Yep. This is the cost of like these Chrome Mox and not being lands. So I'm taken off of Recruiter of the Guard for Solitude, which was a major thing that I was planning on doing. And because Chrome Mox is not a land, I cannot play this Skyclave Apparition that I just drew. So let's get a Stoneforge Mystic Force of Willed. Pitching another Force. Playing with Thalia. I'm in a lot of trouble if my opponent has another Wasteland. Land into Minsk and Boo would be pretty bad as well. Brainstorm by itself is not innately threatening. Okay, great. This is the sort of reason why I played out that Rest in Peace earlier. My opponent may have a bounce spell for the Rest in Peace based on the line that they're taking here. Alright. This resolves because Thalia is in play. Take out Delver. And keep sending in with Thalia. Wild. Like that Tarmogoyf could have been held as Brainstorm fodder if that was the plan. Okay, Bolt is fine. That is gonna Brainstorm lock you a decent portion of the time here. I also don't think you have to Lightning Bolt first. You have the Brainstorm. Alright. Land drop. Play Recruiter and figure out where I'm going with this game. Rest in Peace is symmetrical, so my Extraction Specialist isn't good. I think I'm just going to get a Flicker Wisp. Flicker Wisp threatens to remove that token. It threatens to bounce Recruiter of the Guard and just get more value. A generically good card. Stoneforge Mystic is fine as well. It's just a little slow here. So that is going to turn Daze back on my opponent's side of the battlefield. Bobble as a slow cantrip is totally fine. Caldra is not a good draw here. I know my stuff's resolving. I am interested in Flicker Wisp, the Recruiter. Technically should do this post-combat, but all the decisions are pretty obvious here. That's really bad Bobble timing, because I'm about to shuffle my library. You should wait until after the Recruiter of the Guard trigger in the end step, so you actually get to see what I'm drawing next turn. We'll go yes. I'm just going to pick up another Flicker Wisp here. Take your card off Bobble. Dragon Rage Channeler is a 1/1. Also a 1/1. I mean, the extra bodies are nice. Alright, and my opponent throws in the towel there. I think if they played tighter, there's a very good chance that I don't win this one. Alright, I just wish this was a land. I just desperately, fucking desperately wish that it was a basic plains instead of a Chrome Mox. There's this tension between like Chrome Mox and Solitude and multiple pitch cards in a deck that doesn't have like that much actual card draw is so rough. And if this were to randomly get Force of Willed by an opponent scared of the fact that I would be on like Red Prison or something like that, it would be a disaster. These also don't imprint Lion Sash, which is a thing as well. Opponent says, hello, YouTube. Spider Skull or Jitte? I think I get Jitte. Like, I have a big, dumb, scary thing to put in already. Volcanic Island. Do you have... Yeah, you have the Innate Lightning Bolt. This hand kind of falls apart after that card is gone. Let's hope Lion Sash can do things. It's my only play here. Yeah, and it's so awkward that my land count is lower than normal. Double Lightning Bolt just innately in the opening and is rough. Fuck me, I guess. Yeah, like, this is the same thing that I've been talking about all League, where every time this happens and you have both of these at the same time, it is just an utter disaster. Dragon Rage Channeler plus Grim Lavamancer equals pain in the butt. Multiple. I don't know exactly what build this is. Didn't have a chance to look over all the results from the weekend challenges. I imagine we're still in the Blue-Red Delver ballpark. I'll eat one from Grim Lavamancer. Opponent topped both of their cards. Off Preordain. Oh, thank God. Alright. A Daze or Force of Will is back-breaking here. Yup. But I certainly can't wait to put it in off Vial, and I'm not guaranteed to have a land drop next turn. My land count is lower than the normal land count of this deck. Curiosity. Okay. Understood. This is certainly spicy. I don't know if it's good, but it is good when I don't have any spot removal. Oh no, this one does not have an attacking clause on it. Some of them do. That sure is awkward timing. I can play that and just feed it to Grim Lavamancer. I can knock a Curiosity off a creature. I think I need to be able to wisp something in. I think I just play out Jitte this turn. Alright, so they're gonna shoot me to the face here in an attempt to maybe draw a Force of Will, seems like. And it worked. Yeah, life's bad. My opponent has 5 damage and 2 sets of card draws per turn. So their tempo cards become very strong. The multiple Innate Lightning Bolts in the opening hand didn't help, but... Oh my god. YouTube. Chunk Buckle is bullying me. I think I kind of need my opponent to fuck up here. I've got a plan. Please no more. Okay, great. I needed this to actually happen. Assuming no interaction from my opponent, I'm going to do something filthy. Yes. Solitude. Cast Solitude. Pitching Mom. Junk a Grim Lavamancer. Activate Vial. God damn it! No! My opponent did make a pretty big error here, though. They're supposed to wait until I put the Flicker Wisp trigger on the stack targeting the Solitude. Because now I get to do this targeting... Target Recruiter? Or do I just kick that Curiosity off of my opponent's stuff? I think I target the Recruiter. Yes, I will use this ability. Distraction Specialist? It's taking so much damage. Might need to take a Skyclave. I'm also going to need an upkeep stop in my own turn here, I think. So this is going to hit my Flicker Wisp. Unfortunately, Dragon Rage Channeler still has 4 card types in graveyard. I get hit for 3. Going to 6. My opponent gets a card. My opponent has used 2 of their lightning bolts already. And they're going to fuel the graveyard a little more. Getting rid of a force. Oh, what the fuck is this? Electrode. 1 damage to any target. When you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may untap it. Okay. I see. Alright. Electrode, Curiosity. Alright, I understand. Fuck this deck. Just all of this targeted removal that can go at my X1 creatures is a disaster. My opponent draws a card. I tap this. Yes. Skyclave. I think the Grim Lavamancer is the thing that's hardest for me to beat, but everything's awful. Yes, take up Vial, working towards Yorion. Thank you, Vial. Very cool. So I very likely die this turn from my opponent. So, yep. My opponent now gets to tap, draw a card. Any instant or sorcery spell they do untaps that so that they can do it again. What my opponent's doing is probably too cute for Legacy, but it is going to bully the absolute shit out of me. Yeah, so that's untap plus attack. I'm dead to this. Ugh. It's probably going to be the same general sideboarding approach I've had the last couple of rounds, which is bringing these when I'm playing against a fair deck. I, again, don't think I can play Leyline alongside Chromox and Vial at the same time. Lauren has more value in this matchup than previously. I'm going to get rid of Containment Priest. My X1 creatures kind of suck. Although, to be fair, my X2 creatures also kind of suck. Like, do I have to play Leyline? Like, do I just have to break down and fucking play Leyline and accept that I'm going to have 12, or I guess 11 absolutely atrocious mid-game draws? 4x Grim Lavamancer and 4x. Dragon Rage Channeler is a lot. I hate this. I hate this so much. I think I have to probably get rid of, like, Thalias as X1 creatures that just die. Then, like, go down 1 Vial or 1 Chromox. I think a Chromox. Chromox has the upside of being able to imprint the Leylines in the mid-game. I am losing my mind playing this deck. Also, like, doing this also just makes my Extraction Specialist worse because I lose out on a bunch of my best things to bring back. There is a lot of subtle anti-synergy in how this deck list is built. I don't know that I can keep this. My opponent's deck has creatures on a stick that just obliterate my X1 creatures, of which I have 3. I guess it's just so awkward. It's so awkward for me if I keep this hand and my opponent leads on turn 1 Grim Lavamancer. I guess they also have to hold it up and have food for it. Okay, I guess it's not 100% free. Alright, cool. And now we just have fewer lands in the deck to actually go and top deck 1. And I need them. Like, I need them if this recruiter is going to do the absolute best things it is capable of doing. But hopefully I just, like, untap with a Mother of Runes, play Spirit of the Labyrinth, and the game effectively ends. That would be cool. Grim Lavamancer is good. But my opponent didn't have it on turn 1, which is a big deal here. Take up both vials. These have been draws. Let's remove the stop on my own upkeep. I shouldn't need that anymore. Not working towards the 3 mana that I need to put a Yorion into my hand to make best endgame use of this stuff. Yep. I will attempt to protect my mom here. Opponent gets to do Grim Lavamancer shenanigans. Yep. Arc Bolt still has 1 legal target, so it does get to deal me 1 point of damage. That is okay. Like, I have Spirit of the Labyrinth to help with that. It's going to be a little awkward. But we've got Recruiter to do some gross things. All three of these vials are going up. So I think I'm interested in this. Attack my opponent for 3, bringing them to 15, going to my own end step, activating Vial, putting in a Flicker Wisp, Flicker Wisping out the Grim Lavamancer, which gets rid of the Curiosity that my opponent played, while also buying a turn to give me some time. God damn it. That's so brutal. Sequencing here seems pretty bad. Didn't get the Surveil trigger. I think I would like 2 vials at 3. This one, no to that one. Yes to the others. Stoneforge is cool. I think I want activate this. Yes. Recruiter. Yes. Skyclave. App. Yes. Yaw. Take out Grim Lavamancer while still having an end of turn Stoneforge Mystic. Okay. That is a line that you're allowed to take. Trying to fuel their graveyard for Dragon Rage Channeler. I get it. And like I am on 1 land, but sooner or later I'm going to draw a Swords to Plowshares that Daze would be live against. I'll be at 16 from that. It's specifically for a Murktide Regent. That's fine, it's good. I'm gonna go ahead and activate this. Put in this Stoneforge. It's gotten considerably worse. I think I'm gonna pick up Lion Sash here. Mostly because it's a white card, honestly. I'll leave the vials where they're at for now. Oh shit, we just naturally drew a Solitude. That's really good. Let's Solitude. Pitching Lion Sash. Target the Murktide Regent. Activate this. Yes. Flicker Wisp. Target the Solitude. And that's enough for my opponent to throw in the towel. Orc Bolts, Grim Lavamancers, Electro, whoosy what's it. There's a lot going on over there. I think I'm going to keep the sideboarding as is. Thalia gets worse on the play. I could think about 1 more Chrome Mox on the draw to help catch up. But again, like, this is a big old pile of awkward. I think I'm going to resubmit as is. Not 100% certain. Okay. I have a reasonable hand that needs more mana. I'm hoping to be able to just play a turn 2 Rest in Peace. That's almost what I meant. I'm hoping to be able to play a turn 2 Rest in Peace, have it resolve, and have that, like, meaningfully impact the game. This is now awkward. I'm not willing to cast Rest in Peace yet. Whatever I do in this turn cycle is not going to work. I believe that I'm going to get my opponent to try and spend resources on Lion Sash. I don't really care about this card if I'm hoping to resolve Rest in Peace. So I'm good with this eating a Lightning Bolt to counterspell, half a Forked Bolt, whatever. Yeah, very happy to eat a full card worth of value there. All right. I will Swords to Plowshares that on my own turn. Very cool, Leyline of the Void. Thank you for joining the party. Doesn't even pitch to Solitude. I think I need to play a 2-drop this turn. I'm going to attempt Rest in Peace. Think. Alright, so my opponent hasn't fully just F6'd here. They might have a counterspell. Which one do I do? My opponent has so much single target removal. Maybe Rest in Peace is the real winner. There's a world where they counter a Stoneforge Mystic if they don't have a removal spell in hand at the moment. Oh shit. Timeline found. It is another one. I will Council's Judgment to that. Oh, I might not have the mana to. Yeah, I don't have the mana to. Let's start with a Solitude, pitching a Skyclave. Oh, what did they pitch off? Force, by the way. Okay, cool. Time to take this out. And let's see if we can force a Rest in Peace through. It's a big win if we do. Oh, we did. Now, let's not get excited yet. Like, I have 2 lands. I can't put Yorion into my hand. I have a dead card. I can't cast Council's Judgment. Like, there's still a lot of very bad things going on here, and I absolutely will not wasteland my opponent. I need these resources to work towards 3 and 5 mana, respectively. Somewhat likely that my opponent has cards like Curiosity just stranded in hand that don't have a target. I am going to reach that mid-game portion now, where things are awkward. It's not the end of the world if I let my opponent untap with Grim Lavamancer. Because I have Rest in Peace in play. It like matters if there's a Brazen Borrower type card involved. Yeah. So again, there's that perfect example of like the mid-game Aether Vial being pretty bad. But if my opponent plays a Curiosity on this Grim Lavamancer, I can path it in response and get a 2-for-1. Brainstorm's fine. Response. It's a shuffle off the Brainstorm for them, and they will get a basic land. Again, though, raw number of lands is not a huge problem here. My Vial getting smashed? Not quite, but right read. Okay. Yeah, my opponent's down to 1 card to my 3 cards. This one... God damn. Alright. Alright. That's a 1-1. I care about it once it has a Curiosity on it. I might just play this now so that my opponent has 0 opportunity to put a Curiosity on it. If I draw another land, I just want to play a Naked Yorion, even into Days. But I could save this for a Galectrode. Answered 2 of those already? I've answered 2 of those already, though. I think I'm not going to cast the Council's Judgment. I don't know. It is just a selection spell. I think I've changed my mind. I don't think I want to give my opponent the selection of Dragon Rage Channeler. The illusion of choice. Welcome to democracy. Let's go. All right. Do I want to wait until I draw 1 more mana source to cast Yorion so that Karakas is available and so that Days isn't live? I think I'm willing to wait. Again, though, like, very much would prefer that this would not be a land that 2-for-1s me. Like, I know the Leyline is not dead, or is dead. Okay, that. Very cool, Karakas. Very cool. Play Leyline. This is awkward with me wanting to cast this Cauldron later. I think I do this to play around Days. There is still hard cast Force of Will that exists. Alright, Yorion's in play. I'm not interested in blinking any of my stuff here. This is just a 4/5 flyer that I can protect with Karakas. Yeah, and that extra Karakas here is definitely keeping me from casting a Cauldron. In for 4. Opponent's at 13. My opponent has a lot of cards in hand. Corvox is so bad. Alright. We're just going to punch our opponent with a Bird Serpent until we can't punch with our little Bird Serpent arms anymore. Not willing to give up swords to attempt to cast Cauldron directly into Days. Bash for 4 more. Alright, my opponent gets some selection. Lightning Bolt Yorion resolves. Second, Fork Bolt, this is 5 toughness, yep. Second one, I will attempt to bounce. They're presumably going to Lightning Bolt again. Alright, and they do succeed in finally taking my Yorion out of play. This is a Plains. I think I'm just going to wait till I'm on 8 mana so that Days doesn't get this Cauldron. And maybe that's me just being a coward. But, like, this just kills my opponent if it resolves. Just fully dead. There's a port. Let's see if this resolves. Hardcast Force of Will is a thing. Hardcast Force of Will is a thing. On it fetching to clear that Brainstorm. They're through about half of their deck now. The clutch Mystic Sanctuary. We are in cast 3/3 Murktide Regent mode. I'll swords this probably on my own turn here. Yeah. Nice. Do a mom. At this point, with Caldragon, I think I am comfortable doing this and starting to constrict my opponent. There's a non-zero chance that my opponent just has more copies of Murktide Regent in hand. That's fine. And tapping with this mom would be pretty huge. Just makes every creature that I draw after this incredibly strong. Yep, this is just a flyer. It doesn't matter too much what I bounce here. I'll get a Dragon Rage Channeler out of the way. I don't have anything to do with extra mana here. No mom attack, just absolutely holding that back. And we'll tax some mana. Brainstorm's fine. They like what they found. Okay, that's super annoying. That makes it worse. Good top deck would be nice here. I mean, this is like kind of good. It's awkward for my opponent. I think I'm gonna port a mountain here. A Valk can be used for like multiple different instant speed things, where the mountain is probably just used for lightning bolt. The board falls apart real quick if my opponent can untap this creature. And it seems like they can. Yep. There is also a chance that I legitimately just win this game via mill. Gross. I mean, I played around this earlier for good reason. But now I just lose the bomb to this. I'll lose the Flicker Wisp at my opponent's convenience later. So many X1s in my deck. I need to draw like a Batter Skull here. I just need something of that nature. Or like drawing a Jitte this turn or a Stoneforge this turn would do it as well. Hey, a Jitte. That is disgustingly good. My opponent's Hellbent. Yeah, that's enough to get the GG from my opponent. That was much more of a fight than I was expecting it to be, honestly. Send in with the Wisp. Opponent goes to 1. And this is just not going to be beatable. So we'll get that here. And I think I can just pass the turn with the other counter available. Or down a Valk this time. That was, I think, the hardest I've ever worked in my life for a 3-2 finish. So we've reached the end of the league here. And so I ask you, what do you think about Chrome Mox and Death and Taxes? Let me know in the comments. No, you don't have to tell me. I think it was very clear today that like this card did not pull its weight in the matchups that we saw. While conceptually speaking, in a fast combo metagame, I can absolutely see wanting to play Chrome Mox. When you are playing against any sort of fair and mid-range matchup, losing the card comes at such a great cost. And it's not just that you're -1 card, it's that your solitudes become worse as well. You have fewer land drops to hit when you're hoping to hit one of those. In the mid game, this is not the mana source you need to get to that 5th mana for your Yorion or whatever. I was very much not impressed with Chrome Mox, so we're just going to go ahead and get rid of that. That doesn't deserve any more screen time, but let's take a look at the deck list one more time here. Generally speaking, I feel like having the Chrome Mox in my deck list made me worse against mid-range stuff, and my sideboard is so geared towards combo that I basically brought in the same 3 cards just again and again and again today. And while maybe I'm not expecting to play against like mid-range and tempo decks all day, every day on Magic Online, like I very much would have expected to play against at least some combo decks in this league, I think Chrome Mox being bad in these slower matchups, and like again living in a prismatic ending world where this can be answered, in a world where collect roofs and meltdowns and stuff are common, I think Chrome Mox comes at too great of a risk for me to want to play this. So we tried hard with Death and Taxes today, but this wasn't necessarily like the try hard, like take down the event in impressive fashion. I hope you enjoyed this slog of a video. If you disagree with me about Chrome Mox and you think it's better than it's showing in today's video, like seriously, I would like to hear that down in the comments below, especially if you've tested with it already. I am going to go eat lunch. I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya.